This is the news. The 11 o'clock report of news, weather, and sports from NewsCenter 25 with Doug Greengard, Mary Mack, and Randy Quaren weather. Now, NewsCenter 25.
Good evening. Area firefighters were kept busy today with a number of fires which broke out around the area. Late today, firefighters responded to a house fire on Perry Loop Road in Kennewick. The blaze originated in the garage and quickly spread to the house. The owner and her daughter got out of the house before flames spread. Officials estimate about $50,000 in damage and are still investigating the cause of the fire. Meanwhile, earlier today, Benton County firefighters responded to a structure fire on Payette Avenue. When firefighters arrived on the scene, smoke was billowing from the building, which was unoccupied at the time. Firemen quickly brought the fire under control. There were no injuries to residents or firefighters. The cause of the fire has not been determined. There was a lot of strange things happening on the Hanford Nuclear Reservation today, but as Randy Quaren reports, it was all for practice.
Deep in the heart of the federal building here in Richland, key employees are dealing with high-stress situations. Hostage takings, employee evacuations. None of this, however, is really going on. It's all part of a drill. The unfolding scenario involved incidents throughout the reservation. The 200 East and West areas, 100 N, Gable Mountain, the drill rig, U.S. Ecology, and the 400 area. Press releases made mention of a hostage taking, but DOE officials don't want to get too specific when discussing the nuts and bolts of the drill.
I can't discuss the whole scenario because that, in fact, is a part of the exercise, and that is basically classified in nature. What we do work on is a scenario that's somewhat realistic in the scope of all the things that could happen, and we plan against a draft emergency, if you will. A reactor going down, an emission into the atmosphere, it's spreading across the Hanford site, and how we would react to that, how we would work with off-site emergency personnel to make sure that the people living off the site are not in any way harmed.
Leroy says the employees are not told in advance that the drill is starting. Conditions for those on the inside are very lifelike and can really get the sweat flowing.
Absolutely. It's a very real scenario, and it's very important that we act as though it were in fact happening. We look at it as a way to improve our systems and to learn more about our own process, but it's realistic. It's a tough time for a lot of people who have not been used to this.
The DOE has these drills about once a year. Leroy says most of the employees performed well and all benefited from the practice. For NewsCenter, Randy Quaren reporting.
It may be quite a while before police will know if a new set of skeletal remains found near the Green River are those of the killer's 35th victim. Because only some of the victim's bones have been found, it may not even be possible to determine if the victim was a man or a woman. Dozens of investigators have converged on a site near Kent, but the search for evidence is being hampered by heavy undergrowth. The so-called Green River killer is believed responsible for the deaths of 34 young women and disappearances of 11 others since 1982. Noting that its proposed 1987 budget is $18 million less than this year's, the Washington Public Power Supply System has issued a proposed spending plan of $900 million. The budget for the year beginning July 1st reflects the reductions in operating expenses and capital additions, as well as the cost of preserving deferred nuclear plants 1 and 3. It will be reviewed by certain agencies next month. Then it will be back to the Executive Board for final approval. The Augustine volcano in Alaska continued to erupt today. It returned to life yesterday after 10 years of quiet. Today's activity is being described by the U.S. Geological Survey as a continuous eruption compared to the more violent eruption of yesterday. The volcano is pumping ash, flames, and hot sulfur gas out of its top about once every 15 minutes. The volcano is located 180 miles from Anchorage and has prompted delays and postponements of flights in and out of the Anchorage International Airport. In the town of Kenai, Alaska, some ash was falling and residents were resorting to wearing masks. However, in Anchorage, it was business as usual despite the volcano. After a delay, the peace marchers are back on the road again. Stay with us. NewsCenter continues.
Tired of the same old stuff on TV?
Hiya, kid.
Well, get revving to 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven?
Yeah, for 97-cent movie rentals. A super selection of the latest, greatest movies at a super low price.
We're on our way.
Drop in anytime.
I'm on my way.
So if you're just hanging around and tired of staring at the same four walls, golly, 7-Eleven's got the deal you should jump on. Movies at the right price right now at 7-Eleven.
We're on our way.
What?
Shoemate Mazda saves you more, and they're proving it. For a limited time, save $1,000 off any new Mazda in stock at Shoemate Mazda. Get $1,000 off all Mazda RX-7s, $1,000 off all 626s, $1,000 off all 323s, $1,000 off all Mazda B2000 pickups. Plus receive Mazda's extended service contract and lifetime recommended oil changes at no charge. Hurry, shop today before the big price increase and get big savings at Shoemate Mazda in the Pasco Auto Center.
Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega says it's true. Sandinista troops did cross over into Honduras in pursuit of Contra rebels. Dennis Murphy has more in this report.
The government of Nicaragua admitted in convoluted fashion that its soldiers entered Honduras.
The greater part of the northern border, the border between Nicaragua and Honduras, has become a war zone because of this army that the United States has created and has installed in that whole area.
The foreign minister and President Daniel Ortega argue that since Honduras has lost control of its southern border to the Contras, that region is no longer part of Honduras. Ortega says that when his soldiers cross the line that the rest of the world recognizes as Honduras, he's chasing an enemy in a war zone. What's more, says Ortega, since he's not showing aggression to Honduras, he's not in violation of international law. This map details the part of the border in question. The Contra camps are on the Honduran side. The pictures of this Contra camp were taken in November. The Nicaraguans say they have wiped out a major Contra training camp in heavy fighting. They say they killed 350 Contras in the last 2 weeks and lost 40 of their own soldiers. But in Honduras, the Contras claim they killed 200 Sandinistas and lost only 40 of their own men. The border has been quiet the last 2 days, but Nicaraguan soldiers have been fighting Contras in central Nicaragua. Yesterday, government troops said 2 policemen and 2 civilians died when Contras blew up their jeep. This is Good Friday, a solemn holy day when Christians reflect on the death of Christ. As thousands of Nicaraguans followed a cross through the streets of Managua, Ortega likened last night's Senate Contra aid vote to Good Friday.
Crucificado Jesucristo.
He said 1 day before the crucifixion of Christ, the U.S. Senate has approved the crucifixion of Nicaragua.
Meanwhile, opponents of President Reagan's Central American policy staged rallies and protests in Seattle today. More than 100 demonstrators marched on the federal building where they heard speakers condemn the U.S. Senate's action yesterday to appropriate $100 million in aid for the Contra rebels in Nicaragua. The group that sponsored the rally was convicted on trespassing charges earlier this week for a similar demonstration last December. The Peace March is on its feet again, but financial footing for the walk for nuclear disarmament is another matter, as Fernell Chapman reports.
After a 12-day delay, what's billed as the Great Peace March is on the move again. The marchers left Barstow and crossed Interstate 40 to resume their transcontinental walk in the name of peace.
If running out of money in the desert doesn't stop it, I don't know what will.
The march had been stalled because of financial problems, but organizers managed to raise about $60,000. That's enough to provide essential services for another 150 miles through the Mojave Desert.
Finally, we're on our way again.
This is just the tough part right now in the desert. But when we're started now, and once we get through the Rockies, across the Great Plains, it's going to be an incredible experience.
There were more than 1,000 marchers when the demonstration began in Los Angeles earlier this month. But today, when the march reached the desert town of Daggett, there were fewer than 400. Many of those still involved consider themselves hardcore peace marchers. One of them is Shirley Woods from Philadelphia. She has cerebral palsy, arthritis, a hearing disorder, and lots of determination.
People who have disabilities can do something and get involved with things like peace marches and stuff like that, too, because it's so important that we do our share.
The marchers covered about 15 miles today, and they'll spend the night in the desert town of Yermo. For now, the march is organized, planned, and financed to make it to Las Vegas. But from then on, it's a gamble. From the Mojave Desert, Pernell Chotman for NBC News.
Doug, the stars just weren't in the sky tonight. They were also in Richland.
Yeah, and in little kids' eyes, you could see that twinkle.
That's for sure.
Boy, something that just drives the kids crazy. They just love it. It's coming up next in sports. Some familiar faces that you've seen before. It looks like the Globetrotters, but it isn't. But it's just as good.
It's truck dealing days at Sunnyside Chrysler in Sunnyside, and they've got something exciting for you. When you purchase any domestic Dodge truck, you can also receive a trip to Hawaii, plus up to $1,000 cash back to you. That's right. In addition, Sunnyside Chrysler has $500 to $1,000 cash back on most models. All Dodge domestic trucks are protected against outer body rust-through for 5 years or 50,000 miles. There's never been a better time to buy than right now at Sunnyside Chrysler in Sunnyside, where Hawaii is only one truck away.
I wait all winter to get outside. I love warm weather, except for my hay fever, allergies. But this year I'll try the Comtrex made just for allergy sinus relief.
Comtrex AS multi-symptom allergy sinus reliever does it all, so it's all you need for an allergy with a stuffy nose, sneezing, watery eyes, and headache. Sudafed can't relieve all those symptoms. Chlortrimeton can't. Actifed can't. But Comtrex AS can.
That's all I need.
Comtrex allergy sinus reliever is all you need. Boys got some great new ideas.
Like what?
Like a dinner special every night of the week, all for $2.99 or less.
That's value.
That's good. There's Italian spaghetti with meat sauce, country chicken or cod fillet with fries.
Only $2.99?
Or less. What a value.
Nobody takes care of you like this.
Try the new weekday dinner specials at Bob's Big Boy.
And boy, that's sure the only place for me.
Oh, for a warm and cozy castle, insulated safely from the cold of winter. Cold cuts? Oh, for Insulsafe 3 from Certainteed. Pure white fiberglass insulation. Thermally efficient, non-combustible. Oh, warmth. For year-round comfort. Help protect your home or castle. Insulate safely with Insulsafe now.
Intermountain West Insulation, 6820 West Clearwater, Kennewick.
It was quite a show at Hanford High School tonight. It looked like the Globetrotters, but it wasn't. The Shooting Stars is an offshoot of the Trotters with familiar faces like Meadowlark Lemon and Curly Neal. Through the eyes of the roving sports camera, the Shooting Stars kept the fans entertained with a popular weave that always manages to get the defense in a state of total confusion. For the Shooting Stars, this is yet another stop in their national tour, which brings them into schools to talk about the harmful effects of drugs. Meadowlark Lemon has been working with the First Ladies Council on Drug Abuse. This is giving him the chance to team up again with Curly Neal and bring along the fun that he was known for with the Trotters. The fans were mostly impressed.
Very interesting. The way they do that.
What is it about it that's so interesting, the way they do it?
Well, the skill and the talent and stuff.
You think you'd ever like to be a shooting star?
No, not really.
But you like watching them?
Yeah. This is my first time.
You think there'll be another time?
I don't know.
You have to feel a little bit sorry for the Washington Bullets. They had to play in Boston, where the Celtics had won 25 in a row. We'll make that 26 now as the Celtics hammered the Bullets 116-97. The Celtics are just one game short of the consecutive home victory record set by the 1949 and 50 Minneapolis Lakers. This game got off to an interesting start. Things didn't work out as planned for the Celtics in the early going. Larry Bird's shot rejected by Charles Jones. Bird will get another chance. He missed the jumper, though. Manute Bol with the rebound. His outlet pass was stolen by Bird, who gave it yet another try, and yes, that one, too, was rejected. He made good on his final try. Bird with 27. Boston 61-48 at the break. Then Bird with the hustle play knocked it away, dove into the scorer's table to save it. Boston made good on Bird's hustle. Dennis Johnson fed Danny Ainge for the three-pointer. Boston over Washington 116-97. Casey Jones, a very happy man tonight. Other scores. New Jersey over Chicago 118-107. Milwaukee hammered Philadelphia 116-94. Detroit down Houston 116-107. It was Atlanta, an 8-point winner over Indiana 100-92. Denver over Utah 128-120. And lastly tonight, the LA Clippers over Phoenix 107-96.